Hi everybody, and welcome to our first ever game breakdown video. This is going to be a little bit different, though it's going to kind of feel like our podcast a little bit, where we're just sitting here and talking about a topic, but specifically this is going to be about a specific game, and this one specifically, I've said that word like 5 times already, is going to be about Kingdom Hearts. And so my name is Mike.
I'm Nick.
And I'm Travis.
Yeah. And
it's a game that we all know very well.
It is. Well, because I think I've played this one a ton on my own. I know Nick was a part of a Let's Play we did, and you did beat it on your own, right? I think.
The original, no, okay. But I have watched Travis play through a good majority of it.
Yeah, well, I was gonna say,
stream.
Travis did
I streamed the entire game. Yeah.
So we all kind of know how Kingdom Hearts works.
I've beaten 3 of the other games, I think, but anyway, yeah.
That 3? Oh, and I know 2: Birth by Sleep and Dream Drop Distance.
Anyway, let's keep on the regular Kingdom Hearts.
We're focusing on the original today, yeah. So for those of you that don't know, this one originally came out on the PlayStation 2, way back, about 16 years ago at this point. Developed by Square Enix. I feel like this is like the company that I always talk about because I love them.
They're a great company.
Yeah. And so for those of you that don't know what Kingdom Hearts is all about, it's basically a mix of like Disney and Square. The main characters in the game, you play as Sora, but then he also has Goofy and Donald on his side. And so this is sort of the first thing that I kind of wanted to talk about is what do you guys think about the mix of like Disney and Square and how the characters combine together?
Sorry, go on, Travis.
Okay, sorry. So, anyone who might know me will probably know that I am a huge Disney fan.
No,
and it was super cool seeing the Disney characters in a much darker setting.
Mm-hmm.
Just because, like, the story that encompasses Kingdom Hearts, even though the first one, it wasn't really too dark, but I know it does definitely take a darker turn later. But, like, it was super cool seeing all of these characters that I loved so much as a kid in a completely different atmosphere. Like, Beast was a badass, by far the best sidekick ever, because he will destroy everything. So, like, I got really into it because, one, I'm biased because I love Disney, and then, like, I know how much you, Mike, love this game, and then CJ also really loved that game. So, unlike Matt, I did not skip any of the cutscenes, and I did listen to them. So, like, I got really... Like, I know there's a lot of, like, holes in the first one where it doesn't quite explain everything. I think 2 is when it really starts actually, like, explaining who the group is, because the name is even blanking on me right now.
I guess the organization.
Organization.
I guess I will say this, because I'm sure we're going to be mentioning a lot more later on. One of the biggest things is I'm still surprised to this extent, like today, that Disney allowed them to do it with their characters.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I know.
And it blows my mind that they're like this amazing idea. And I mean, Square Enix is known for its work basically with the Final Fantasy series, and I remember when I've talked to people about it, and I read articles about this as well, just like to get preparation about this. And it turns out that when they were thinking about, like, originally they were going to have Mickey as a playable character, which would still have been fine, and then you would also be having you'd be able to play, you play as Mickey, and there's going to have like a simple Disney story that everybody could follow along, but because I think this is Square Enix's influence was, no, they're going to be bored if it has that simple of a story. So we're going to make something really dark and complex. It's going to be more along the lines of a Final Fantasy story, if anything. And honestly, I think that's probably one of Kingdom Hearts' biggest strengths there, because the fact that you have these lovable Disney characters, and you also have a crazy, not really crazy, but like you have a deep, complex story with it as well. It attracts people who initially, because there could be quick stories and whatnot, but you can get that in other games. But there are people who seek out that really complex story, like people where you can have a discussion about the game, and Kingdom Hearts fits it so well. You see the development more in like Kingdom Hearts 2 and Birth by Sleep and 358 over 2 days, but the original one did a great job of starting it off and getting the audience there with the Disney characters. I feel like almost kind of like, not kind of as a bait, but as one of the things to encapsulate you in the beginning, and then it gets you with the story. And I think that was amazing that Disney and Square Enix were able to collaborate so well on that.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because if I knew of Kingdom Hearts' existence when I was a kid, I don't know how it dodged my head there, but I totally would have gotten it, because I'm like, Disney characters, yeah, fighting people, yeah, totally. And then, obviously, as the stories progressed even more and more, even as I got older, I still would have definitely appreciated the dark twists and turns that the story later develops, but...
Yeah. This is making me want Kingdom Hearts 3 more and more.
I know. The more further we go into this conversation, it's like, I need that game. But I was going to say, it's funny because to go back to what you're saying about like Disney and like, you know, them like being surprised that they allowed all this. I remember reading somewhere that Disney was actually like super strict with what they would and wouldn't allow. This isn't the original Kingdom Hearts, but just as an example, in Birth by Sleep, I remember they said that Aqua's like the back of her shirt had to be a certain distance up. They couldn't show too much of her back. Like Disney rejected their first model, So I was like, stuff like that, because it almost made me wonder, because like when you think of Kingdom Hearts, no one ever dies in Kingdom Hearts. People that sort of, like Sora's sacrifice, I guess this is kind of a spoiler, I guess. So I'm going to give a spoiler warning for this little part here. But there's a part in the game where Sora sort of gives his life, quote unquote, to sort of protect and save Kairi, but he doesn't die. He becomes a Heartless and then gets saved. So I almost wonder if like things like that, like the no deaths, things like that, were sort of influenced by Disney, where if Disney maybe said, hey, don't kill off any characters in it, that's not what Disney's about, things like that. So I wonder how much of Disney impacted like the story of Kingdom Hearts, because Square Enix in Final Fantasy, there's like death and murder and all kinds of stuff. Like Final Fantasy VII has like terrorist explosions. So I wonder like if that's the reason Kingdom Hearts doesn't feel like that, you know, is because of Disney's influence.
It could have been, and honestly, if they had an influence like that, I honestly think it's like for their own good. They let Square Enix have like a deep, complex story, but if you give somebody free reign, it's almost nice to have some kind of feedback on how to like help them like have a. At least in my mind, I feel like it shouldn't be all one person's idea, because once you get a little bit of feedback on how it could maybe be improved, and maybe that's what Disney did. And maybe I'm not talking about like the censoring of Aqua's back or something like that, but I mean, if they did that for like to create a more complex story with like Heartless and nobodies, and if that was more Disney's influence, props to them. It makes it confusing as hell to understand at the beginning, but once you do, it makes it really good story-wise.
Yeah. Well, that's actually one of the last things I kind of wanted to talk about with the story, was sort of the complexity of it.
Yeah.
Because I think this is like the story. Most people that I talk to pretty much like it. They say it's cheesy, but I think that's the point with Disney mixed with Final Fantasy. It's going to sound cheesy, but in a good way. But one of the biggest complaints I hear is that it's too complicated, almost to the point where it doesn't make sense at times. I think, like, you know, again, this might be a slight spoiler. This series, you know, is more about spoiling the game than anything. But towards the end of the game with Ansem, it doesn't even really make sense kind of what Ansem is doing the whole time with like the darkness and capturing hearts and things like that. And
wait,
he
which
turns
Ansem?
into like
Ansem the Wise or the other Ansem?
Was that in this
two
game?
Ansems.
I don't think in this game there was.
I'm pretty sure there's two Ansems, right?
Not in this game.
Yeah. Okay. Well,
you're getting ahead of yourself, Nick.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't even know that there's two Ansems.
Yeah. Well, one of them's Ansem the Wise. I think Ansem is the villain in this one.
Yeah, in this one, Ansem is the villain. We don't know the whole story with that stuff later on. We'll talk about that later.
I guess that's more Birth by Sleep then. Okay, well, anyway.
But it's like that whole jump there, and then at the very end of the game when you have Riku and Mickey on the other side, like closing the gate, saying we have to stay on this side to close the darkness. A lot of the complaints that I hear people say is like, well, this doesn't make any sense. Why did they have to stay on that side? Like, what is up with this? At the opening cutscene with like Sora falling from the sky into the ocean, and then like he falls onto these platforms, it's like,
it's so beautiful.
It's beautiful as it is, you know. Like, I think some people say that like, oh, it's all metaphorical and beautiful, and then some people say it makes no sense at all and it's kind of dumb. So I'm kind of curious what you guys think about that.
Honestly, I feel like they're just trying to nitpick at that point instead of just like enjoying it for what it is. I feel like at least from when I see the opening cinematic there, when I first play a game, I always watch the opening cinematic or like the opening parts of the game, even if sometimes they make me rewatch it as I'm going through the beginning of the game anyway, because I feel like that does a good job of placing you in the mood on like what to do to play the game. And in Kingdom Hearts, you start out on Destiny Isles and whatnot, and having that kind of yes, the part where people might not understand or people might get confused about Sora falling from the sky, but it gives you. But then he wakes up, jumps up from the water, and he sees like Kairi and I think Riku over there on the beach, and one night he runs over there so happily, and it just puts you, at least it put me in the mindset where I'm really excited to play this game. And once he starts it out on Destiny Isles, it created that mindset for me where like, okay, I like this, I know what I want to do now. And I think that's more of what it, at least for me, that's what I feel about it. And in my mind, I feel like the story has done the same amount to get to like bring people into the franchise than to keep people out, if anything. I think more people have come into the franchise for the story, and if they don't understand it and they just want the gameplay is still good. But if you really want to understand the story, and I actually did it for myself because I needed some help, but there are videos on YouTube to help explain the story. So if you want to understand more of it, you can take extra time to do that. But unless you play the games in order that Square Enix made them, you're going to have some holes that you're going to be very confused about. You can't jump between Kingdom Hearts games or jump in like I did at Dream Drop and expect to understand everything, because I was completely lost.
Yeah, I will say you and me probably have a different perspective because we've played like the different games, and so I think the most confusion comes from like bridging the gap between the games and like, well, how does Kingdom Hearts 1 relate to Kingdom Hearts 358 over 2 days and Kingdom Hearts 2. I feel like looking at Kingdom Hearts as a standalone game, to me, it doesn't seem like there's anything that confusing in it. I think, like you said, I think like the part with him falling in the water, I don't think you're supposed to look at that literally. I think it's just the game having this like cool looking opening scene. But I'm kind of curious because I know, Travis, you've only played, as far as I know, right? The first one?
Yeah, I have only played the first one, and I've seen you play like parts of the second one and whatever else you've played in our apartment room. But like, when it comes to like plot that I didn't really understand, it more came from like the mysteries of what the organization did and why they're doing it, which obviously will be answered in the future games.
Right.
So like him falling from the sky, like I never thought anything of it. I'm like, okay, this is happening. Like I didn't think like, wow, I can't believe they're not explaining why I'm falling from the sky, landing in water and blah blah blah, because like, who gives a shit? I don't know.
I think in my mind, like, that depends on what kind of storytelling you're looking for, too. There's certain games that want to leave something up for your own interpretation, but some people just want people to say verbatim what it is.
Right.
Like, he's falling from sky is going to be a metaphor for another thing, for, like, some other person falling from sky later. Like, no. Like, there's some things that I feel like you should have in there to at least let them think. I don't feel like that a game should give you all the answers right away.
Yeah.
That's just what I think.
It doesn't make sense, but it doesn't have to make sense.
Exactly. I mean, especially because I'm also playing a game that has all Disney characters. Like, I'm not expecting things to, like, be logical.
That's a valid point.
True.
You know, like, if I'm fighting random things with the Beast, I'm not going to be like, why am I fighting things with the Beast? Like, I'm just accepting it that this is what's happening, and then whatever story truly comes with it, I'll accept.
Right.
You're going through the experience that the developer made for you, and I think that's what you want to do. You want to approach it with an open mind.
Okay.
Anyway, so are we moving on to the next topic?
Yeah. So that I think the story and that stuff was like the biggest thing for me. One of the other big topics, though, I feel like we should talk about, because this is another thing that's kind of iffy, is the gameplay of the game. So the one major flaw that I hear people talk about is the platforming, and I was going to say the one specific part too that I was referencing is that race against Riku at the very start of the game, where you have to jump from tree to tree.
Yeah.
Every person I see that's playing that at first hates that part and says this is stupid, the jumps don't work and things like that. And it doesn't really get much better. The jumping in the game is so bizarre. So I'm kind of curious what you guys have to say about that.
Well, if anyone had watched me do this stream, they do know that I did try my hardest to beat him, but never did. And then later, I think it was in Tarzan's world, I'm imagining, because it was like I was platforming like inside like a cave, and I kept like getting right before the last platform and then falling all the way down, and I was just flipping out because I'm like, this platforming is garbage. But I mean, it's also just because, like you said, like it has a different feel. So like once I finally got used to it and like how the camera angles worked, I don't think I really had any more major frustrations. But then again, I also don't really remember platforming being that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Because then the only other thing I really ever got frustrated at was when I was in the what was it called? In the Little Mermaid Kingdom, just because I mean, like, I did this in Mario too. Every single button I would hit, it would always be like, I want to go up, but then I go down, and then... But it wasn't really that big of a deal. It was just because I was stupid, and I never remembered which button went up and down.
Yeah, the swimming was a bit weird in this one. I think they got better in the second one. But yeah, that world was definitely an iffy one.
Yeah, but yeah, like, overall, like, the mechanics were definitely really smooth. I never had any problem with combat. I know CJ was cringing the entire time because I like never rolled. I always like jumped out of the way instead of rolling.
Yeah.
And then I would also wait to the last second to heal myself. And he's just like, oh my god, I don't know how you're not healing right now. And I'm like, oh, yeah, I probably should heal.
Travis is an aggro player, and CJ should have known that by now. Jeez.
Yeah.
For real.
But yeah, I'm with you. Like, I think the platform is just like a minor problem, like at most.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you do get used to it, and like you're fine after a while.
Because I did want to. At the end of every stream that I was pissed off on, I did reiterate that it is a good game. I am having fun. I'm more frustrated with myself because I know the mechanics are just different from what I'm used to. I did say that at the end of the streams. You can try and go back and prove me if I'm wrong. But
well, just if we're talking like overall, you look at the gameplay in general, and if you're talking like that one annoyance, like no gameplay is ever going to be perfect. I mean, there's games who have like are almost like are really damn good, and then you have ones that are almost unplayable. Sonic Riders. Anyway, it's like it's not bad. It's not nearly bad to the extent that a lot of people play it off. And I'm sorry if you quit because of a little bit of platforming in the first 25 minutes of the game. Then who cares? You probably weren't going to finish the game anyway. So
yeah,
I don't understand why people are get so frustrated over the platform. Yes, it does get frustrating after a while, but if you get used to it and understand the mechanics a little bit better, I think it's fine. I never had an issue with it when I was doing the platforming. After I at least took a couple minutes to sit down, just be like, all right, take a deep breath and don't keep trying the same shit over and over again and expecting something different.
Yeah,
which is what a lot of frustrated gamers do, in my mind.
Yeah, and to me, it's like Travis said, platforming is kind of a minor part of the game anyway. Most of the time, it's like the combat, which is sort of the other side of the gameplay that I wanted to talk about, because the platforming is iffy, but, like you said, we never really do it. The race is the only part where it feels like it's necessary to, like, go through something fast and precise, but outside of that, it doesn't matter. And later on in the game, you get the glide ability, so at that point, platforming doesn't matter at all.
Made everything so much better.
Yeah, it fixes all of your problems at that point. But so yeah, the other thing I kind of wanted to focus on with this is the combat of the game, because that I think is where Kingdom Hearts shines a lot more.
Oh yeah,
as far as the depth of it goes,
and it gets better over time too, which is so cool. Like,
it does. Well, I will say this game definitely had the worst combat, and the combat in this game is still incredible. So it just goes to show.
When I played like Dream Drop and Birth by Sleep, I mean those are almost the same combat. Honestly, I mean maybe the Dream Eaters that are on your side might be different in Dream Drop Distance, but it's so much fun. Like, honestly, I could just sit there, like, what was it? I remember I was a little under level when I was going on some of the final bosses in Dream Drop Distance, but you just sit down and you just grind for a little while, and it's so fun. And when there's a battle system or like a combat system there that you enjoy doing, and it doesn't make grinding a chore, which I've played RPGs or just like action adventure games where grinding is annoying, but you need to do it. But in a game where it's fun, like Kingdom Hearts, it almost blows me away. Because when you can have something like that that's so fun, I think that can like make up for so many things where if you're like not having, like maybe that you're not having the most positive experience, if you look back at that one point and you're like, I'm having fun just going through the motions of grinding, that is, I think, a huge success if a game can do that, because it's a very small group of games that I can say has able to captivate me like that, and Kingdom Hearts is one of them.
Yeah, well, because I think the fun of the Kingdom Hearts combat too is that you can tailor it to play it how you want to play it. Like watching Travis play through most of his playthrough, he sort of just spammed his way through until the very end. He had to use Tinkerbell.
Wasn't spam. It was strategically smashing the button.
That's what we'll call it. Strategic spamming.
But summons are also very fun to use.
Yeah, because I was going to say that I completely forgot that I can even summon people until it was probably Sora, or maybe it was actually you, Nick. I don't remember. Someone told me that I should summon Tinkerbell because I was struggling so hard on this boss, and then right after I did it, I beat it on my first try with her.
That was Maleficent, right?
Yeah,
I think so,
the Maleficent fight. But that was it was, what I like about it is also with like all of the different like magic points that you have, or skill points, I forget whatever it was called, but like how you can have different abilities based on like how you actually want to play. So like I could have had it where I just didn't even have the block mechanic, which I think I eventually did because I never even tried blocking ever anyway. So like you can tailor it however you want to actually play it. If you want to be more like spammy like me, then you put it more in those kind of combos. Or if you want to like, you know, cast a bunch of fireballs, you can try to mechanic your way around that way. So in that sense, I thought it was super cool because I played the game completely differently than CJ did, but we still ended up beating it and we both enjoyed it in our own ways.
In a way, it's almost like Skyrim, where like you can play it as a mage and use like fire, ice, cure, stuff like that. You can play as like a full front assault. You can, you know, do ranged attacks. You can do forward attacks. You can be a defensive player. There's tons of different ways you can go about it, and I think that's really cool.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, and then like everything always felt smooth to me. Like I knew that if I hit the button that many times, that this would happen. Whereas some other combat systems, it's like janky and not so, especially for how old the first Kingdom Hearts game was. It was definitely very smooth, and I definitely did not have any complaints during combat.
Oh,
absolutely.
No, the combat in the game is smooth. So just for the sake of time, there's one last thing I want to talk about with gameplay before we move on to the last topic. As much praise as we've given it, there is one bad thing with the gameplay, and that is the gummy ships.
If anyone who joined my stream, every single gummy ship ride, I would just hold down the fire button and see if I could live. Only once did I actually die.
Yeah, it's easy, it's boring, and it's repetitive, and you have to do it over and over and over.
It's this such a bad Star Fox ripoff with no incentive to actually do it. It's not good.
Yeah, well, and I kind of want to mix this conversation with the graphics because, like, graphically, this game is beautiful. You know, like, you look at the cutscenes and the gameplay, it's a really well-designed game, and then you look at the gummy ship levels, and it's just, like, it looks like something that could have been on, like, the Nintendo 64, like, which was 2 generations before.
Hey, watch yourself. No. You're right.
But it's just, for a PlayStation 2 game, like, it should not look like that, you know? It's just blocks. You put blocks on top of blocks and then call it a ship, and are shooting like weird like Galaga aliens.
There's some rings too. There's some other shapes.
There are rings and circles. That is true. I will give you that.
Just saying. Can't totally shit on the Star Fox ripoff.
Yeah, but that's about all it is. It's just shapes, and it's the sucky thing is you have to do it. And if you like accidentally go the wrong way to a world and have to backtrack, you have to do the same level again. And so it can get extremely tedious. Luckily, I will say, for those of you that are thinking about playing this or later games, they do fix this in the later ones. Kingdom Hearts 2 still has the gummy ships, but they're a lot more fun, and you don't have to play them as much. There are like ways to sort of get around it. You have the warp mechanic a lot quicker. But yeah, this was definitely the most tedious part of the game, and the ugliest in a game that's otherwise pretty beautiful.
Yeah, I would give you that. So we're all in agreement with that. Gummy ship sucks, but
at least in the first one. I haven't played any of the other ones, but the only thing that I found funny about the gummy ship is the fact that I could literally not move at all and still get good enough upgrades to always have me not have to try at all.
It's really sad.
I will say that I have seen gameplay of the second one. I haven't beat the second one, but the gummy ship levels do look very improved.
Yeah, it's still not like the best thing ever, but it's doable, you know, whereas this is just like you just want to sit there and not do it. The other ones, it's not as tedious.
Yeah. Well, anyway, what's after gameplay then?
Yeah, so as far as like the gameplay and graphics, that's pretty much all I wanted to say. Graphically, there's not like a whole lot I feel like that stands out about the game. It is a beautiful game.
Yeah, it's
typical
PS2.
Final Fantasy stuff. Yeah. But it is very beautiful considering it came out, I want to say it came out 2002, 2001. I should have wrote the exact date down, but I forgot to do that. I'll put the date on the screen for you guys to see. But graphically, for the time period, it's a beautiful game. Everything's smooth in it. The last thing I want to talk about before we end this, though, is the music. Because the soundtrack of this game is
total trash. No, I'm kidding.
I will slit your throat.
It's so damn good.
It is. Well, I'm pretty sure I'm not the only one, because I feel like either one of you or both of you, someone has mentioned it. But this sort of became my study music for a while.
Yeah, well, because you gave me that recommendation, and I'm like, maybe I'll give it a try. I still listen to the frickin' soundtrack while I'm studying, because it's so frickin' relaxing, and then it's also mixed in with all the Disney stuff. So that just gets me even happier. Like, it's to the point where I sometimes am just randomly humming the, like, menu song. You know, I don't really know song titles like you people do. but it's just so relaxing and soothing that and then obviously the boss battles has really intense music, and it was just such a good soundtrack. It really does envelop you in the story even more, even because it gets you in that mindset of like, oh, shit's going down right now, or like, oh my god, he just sacrificed himself. The feels.
I wanted to look it up just to see if it's the person, because we do have to definitely do a nod to this person. I know it says it says Kingdom Hearts 2, but I'm not sure if she also did it for the first one. But it's Yoko Shimomura. Mm-hmm. She is a freaking musical genius, because so one thing that's for because she worked for Square Enix at the time, and if you ever played a Final Fantasy game, you know that I think it's Nobuo Uematsu, I think usually does the music for it, but they usually have damn good people that are integral on the music and whatnot. I mean, I know Final Fantasy went through like a transition between like I think Final Fantasy 9 and 10 when they're doing the composing of their music, and you can a little tell the difference, because I think there's more of like a heavy emphasis on like a piano, I guess, when it comes up later in like later Final Fantasy editions and whatnot. I think mainly like 10 and 12, but just being able to use the music to invoke that emotion out of you like almost immediately, that's very well done. And a lot of times when you play like certain games, you have music that's fitting, but when you have music like that immediately attaches you to the game, that's amazing. Like, that's genius right there. And Kingdom Hearts did it time after time after time. And that's what I don't get, is I don't get how they're able to do that so consistently and between games. I don't get that.
Well, that's the beauty of it, is it's like you said and like Travis said, it's like the music works so perfectly with the game, or like you hear a certain song and you're like, oh, danger's about to come. Or like, the scene I've talked about a couple times now is the one called Sora's Sacrifice, and the music that plays in the background of that I pretty much hear that song now, and it sort of gives me that sadness. I don't even have to see the scene anymore, because at this point it's just the song itself is able to like evoke that emotion out of you. But not only that, like Travis mentioned earlier with the Disney music, I feel like the homage that they paid to Disney was incredible. Like, you go to Aladdin's world, and the music that plays there that they composed is perfect, and it does absolute justice to the Disney soundtracks that came before it, which were equally awesome. Totally. So this game does a great job of not only like coming up with its own original pieces, like you mentioned with Dearly Beloved, which is the opening theme music, or songs like that.
Yeah, I knew that. Haha.
Also, like Sanctuary, right, Mike?
That's Kingdom Hearts 2.
I'm not going to butcher it more.
That was beautiful. Well, that's the other person. Shout out to Utada Hikaru, I think is how you say it. She's the vocalist that pretty much does every song in Kingdom Hearts. Best voice ever, and she is doing Kingdom Hearts 3, which is super awesome. 16 years she's been around it. It's pretty unbelievable when you think about that.
That's amazing. Like, that's actually amazing.
But that's what I'm saying. Just every aspect of it, whether it's the vocals, the original songs, the Disney songs, I feel like they just nailed it across the board.
Oh, absolutely. And I know I'm just going to use the word that we're definitely all thinking of. We're all circle jerking about this music right now because it's so damn good. But it's just...
Oh, I already finished. I'm sorry.
Oh, anyway. But so it's dang good music for a reason. And it's... I mean, I know we want to talk about a lot more about music on the other ones, but if we're talking specifically about the Kingdom Hearts soundtrack, I think a lot of it is also due to, again, we talked about the Disney characters when it came down to the story and whatnot. And before, like, at least in my mind, I feel like we're kind of hardwired, like, at a young age to try to, like, know, like, when you start seeing music, like, pick up in pace, where you start, like, okay, something's gonna happen, like, and you start getting anticipated, maybe a fight's gonna happen soon, or enemies are approaching. But if I feel like, especially with Disney, at a young age, and having all those, like, songs that we've heard growing up too, I think they're able to use that very well, where almost subconsciously, if we hear certain, like, musical, like, note progressions, or like just musical chords, we kind of already have an attachment to Disney characters, and I think it's amplified more that they're able to do it in a game and kind of already know that I think those attachments are there. I don't know, maybe I'm just speculating and reading way too much into this, but I feel like we kind of have those connections where we kind of know how it's supposed to sound, and they're able to do even more with the fact that we already have those preconceived notions. I think
exactly.
And I think that's what I'm thinking. I might be reading too much into it, but I think that just because of the fact that because a lot of us, at least us in general, have watched these Disney movies growing up, we kind of already know the music to expect when it comes to these worlds. Like when we're in the Aladdin world, we know what music to expect.
Right.
Like, it's just Yeah, that's what I think when it comes down to like the specific music for Kingdom Hearts, because that I think is done almost perfectly.
Mm-hmm. And Square Enix has always been good with their music. Like I would say, same about Final Fantasy, because it's like you said, it feels like they nailed all that perfectly. Like you said, with you're used to connections and like we pretty much picked up on these cues, and I feel like they play those cues perfectly. Like they know if we do this with this song, it's going to evoke this emotion, and they like nailed all that to the T. So we've talked about ups and downs with everything, but I don't really have any negatives to say about the music. No. I think top to bottom, it was a pretty great soundtrack. Mm-hmm. So as far as closing thoughts, this has always been like one of my favorite franchises, obviously. This is an incredible first game. For those of you that haven't played a Kingdom Hearts game, now's the time, because they're saying around E3s when they're going to announce when Kingdom Hearts 3 is going to be released. People are expecting holiday 2018 as an estimate. So if you're going to get into the franchise, now is like the perfect time. And it's a good game. I mean, typically when you think of the original first game in a series, it's always kind of iffy. And this one does have some down parts,
Yeah.
Like we said, platforming's iffy, gummy ships are iffy. But for the most part, this game has so much positive that I think it's definitely worth checking out.
And for some reason, I don't know why, it doesn't really get like the attention that I feel like it should have. Like there's so much attention to like Final Fantasy and say also games that I don't know. I feel like even like games like Guitar Hero are more well known about. There's certain people who I talked about fighting with Disney characters, and they don't understand it at all. And these are people who like know decently well about like game franchises. It doesn't seem like this series, like at least recently, hasn't gotten a lot of attention, and it definitely should, because it deserves it.
So, I mean, like I was saying, like I never heard of Kingdom Hearts until I like met Mike in college, and then the introduction I got to it was Matt making fun of Mike for rebuying Kingdom Hearts because it has Disney characters in it, and I'm like, a game has Disney characters? That's amazing. And I was
like,
picturing an entirely different type of game than what Kingdom Hearts actually was. Like, I was basically picturing the what was that thing for the Wii U where you like were able to buy all of the different, like, basically the amiibos, but not. Do you know what I'm talking about?
I have no idea, but I'm happy it wasn't amiibos.
Oh, I'm so happy that it wasn't that too, because Kingdom
you
Hearts,
need a Mickey amiibo to unlock Mickey in Kingdom Hearts.
Because like after beating the first Kingdom Hearts, I was so close to buying myself a PS4 just so I can then get the remastered Kingdom Hearts games and beat all of them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I didn't have the funds to do it, and
sadly,
nor would
it's
I
not
have
on
the
PC.
time.
Yeah, sadly,
we'll
it's
get
not
there
on PC for
eventually.
Travis. Yeah.
Eventually.
If it comes
I'll
out
have a
on
big
Switch,
job.
holy shit, it's gonna be.
Oh my god.
I'm getting it in a
consume
heartbeat.
me.
I already told Mike that if Kingdom Hearts 3, if Tom Hanks comes back as the person who voices Woody for the Toy Story world in Kingdom Hearts 3, and it's not out for Nintendo Switch, I am buying a PS4, and that's going to be the first game I play on it.
Yeah, if Tom
that's
Hanks
not an empty
versus
promise,
Woody,
guys.
And then
I will
Tim
buy
Allen voices Buzz, my life would be made.
Oh my gosh, stop. I can't handle this much excitement.
We can only dream.
That'd be so good. And the Monsters Inc. world. I'm not sure if Mike already said about how excited he is for Kingdom Hearts 3. I am also super excited for Kingdom Hearts 3. It is
going to be awesome.
If I have the means of being able to play the game, I'm excited too. Otherwise, I'm going to try and not make myself sad.
Right.
Well, either way.
Yep. So at worst, if you haven't played this game yet, I pretty much think across the board we would all highly recommend it.
I recommend.
If you have, let us know in the description what you think of the game, what you thought were the positives, the negatives, if you liked it or if you didn't, things like that, or if you have any opinions on what you thought of this. This is our first time doing this too, so you can leave us your honest opinion on what you thought of it, things that we could add to the series or take away, or what you think we could do to improve it. And if you have any game suggestions for us, games that you would like to see us talk about, you can let us know in the comment section below. If it's something we've all played, we would definitely be willing to try it out. So with that being said, I'm out.
Peace.
Bye.